Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing good. Guys, we're playing with some polymer clay today, fully inspired by Saturday's video. If you missed it, I'll link it here. I got these stunning designer handmade silicone inlays sent over to me by Roxanne's Molds and More. On screen right now, you're going to see a project I did around 8 months ago where I used inlays in polymer clay, and these two girls, I had to try it. We are going to be finishing them off with some UV resin by Vista. So my clay is the Arteza polymer. I'm going to be using some round cookie cutters. I am very limited on polymer clay tools. As I've said to you all before in the past, I must invest. I really must invest. So on top of the polymer clay, once it is rolled out, we are going to be dusting them with nothing less than the chameleon powders from Let's Resin. So over on my Shadowfoam wall is where they all sit quite happily being hugged. And yes, I chose a few colours. I didn't actually choose all of the colours that I used in today's video. I actually did use way more than you just saw there. Right now, my polymer clay is a little bit hard. Now, this is the only black polymer clay I have, and quite honestly, this was a very last minute decision video because it was one of those things that I was like, no, I've got to try it. I've absolutely got to try it before I move on. And my calendar currently says I should be working on St. Patrick's Day videos right now. You know, I get, like I said, a little bit obsessed with things and I can't let them go until I'm ready to let them go. So here we are. I am using my pasta machine. Now, this was actually given to me by the incredible Wendy over at Toonpish Crafts. She doesn't live far from me. She came around for a cup of tea, and then a few months later she actually posted this to me because she knew I'd started working with polymer and I didn't have a machine. So thank you to Wendy. This is really just going to condition my polymer clay and save my hands because it was so hard. It was almost like plasticine that had been kept in the fridge. Like, it was just too hard for my hands. I'm just gonna roll it out onto my silicone mat using my clay roller, and honestly, I'm rolling it quite thinly. I want really nice thin medallions, and the next step is I'm gonna dust it with my chameleon powders. Now, if you missed that very first video, that was around 8 months ago, do check it out as well because that was a wow for me. That was one of the most beautiful videos I'd done around that period of time. And yeah, it was only yesterday I sat there and I was like, wait, I could try these inlays in polymer exactly the same way I did 8 months ago. Okay, now, I am not a polymer clay artist. I've said this in my channel before. I've said this before. I don't necessarily do everything right. I just do what I do with what I can at the time, and that's good enough for me. So again, if you are going to go ahead and try something like this and you want to do it properly, please do it properly. Please don't necessarily take this as a how-to, more of a look what you could do kind of video. So I'm just dusting. As you saw, I dusted all of my polymer clay with lots of different colour micas. I figured the more rainbow-esque that I dust the polymer, the prettier these are going to be. And then it was time to imprint the inlays and see what they're like. And it's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. Roxanne, your inlays are absolute perfection. Perfect for polymer clay. So girl, get on that. Yes, I got a bit too carried away and I got so excited because I was like, that is pretty. That is so, so pretty. As well, combined with all of the different colour chameleons, I just think it made all the difference. I think if you just went with one colour chameleon, it wouldn't have such a wow impact. But here you see me playing around with the cookie cutter. I did decide not to cut. I decided to just cover everything with the inlays and just see what I could create, and then come back in afterwards and actually cut out my shapes. The one thing I did do here, which I would not recommend, I actually rubbed the chameleon powder all over the clay with my fingers. I rubbed it in because I thought that would help, but actually I feel like it dulled it. It dulled down the colour, so definitely don't do that. But yes, I'm using my professional pressing tool. This is the lid of my cookie cutter tin. It actually worked really well, and I was worried about leaving like indentations everywhere that I didn't really want, and that was it. So I just pressed a few in and I decided to cut out. Now, this was my very first one. I was happy with it as it was. Truly, these colours are stunning, and I knew that once baked with a top coat of UV resin they would pop even more. But what I did do, I did go over with another layer of the chameleon. Now that is because I, for some reason, rubbed the chameleon powder in with my hand and it just took something away. Like I said, it dulled it down. It's probably the natural oils in my skin that kind of dulled it down, but I carried on regardless, and honestly, the more I made, the more I loved, and I just didn't want to stop. At one point I thought, you know, I'm going to actually add flowers. Now, if you saw Saturday's video, you'll know that I fell in love with the leaf and flower design on these inlays, and I have already asked Roxanne if she can create an inlay that is just flowers and leaves. And the reason for that is that the pattern on its own is just stunning. So whilst these figurines, these facial figures, are beautiful with their flower crowns, I decided after I'd done a few cuts and after I'd done a few imprints, I decided to actually just use the flower section from the inlays to create even more depth, even more visual interest around their faces, and even covering their necks, covering the majority of the design by just pressing the flower section of the inlays. I hope I'm making sense. Once I'd pretty much rolled out my clay, I decided to just fill any other little gaps and cut them out using smaller cookie cutters. These could be earrings, these could be pendants, they could be anything you want them to be. But this is what I'm talking about here. So I've already pressed in the girl's face, but I want more. I want all of that blank space to be completely dented, embossed and covered with the leaves and the flowers. And this was so easy to do. I just turned the inlay around and I used my stamp block just to press it into the clay to get as much detail as possible around that girl's face before cutting it out, and it was beautiful. So worth going that extra little mile to create more interest in the surface of the polymer clay. So this is all the clay I had left. I had to roll it back out. It is completely soaked in chameleon powders, and that's fine. It wasn't detrimental to the clay. And I know I'm using excess chameleon powders, and I'm sorry. There was quite a cleanup and it kind of did get everywhere. But these two together on here, honestly, I don't know what it is. There is something so visually appealing to me about these inlays. I just think they are stunning. Very, very goddess-like, very regal, just beautiful. And even as a plate or a little dish, if you're a polymer clay artist, unlike myself, making a dish or a tray or a little plate or a little trinket bowl just with this kind of embossed detail, I think would be so beautiful. And this is where you see me, like I said, going around all of the outside edges with just the flowers and the leaves from this inlay to create some more interest around the outside. Because honestly, once I cut my first one, I realized that the blank space, it was kind of annoying me. It was kind of taking over and I just felt like it needed so much more. And yeah, this is definitely one of those I couldn't stop kind of things. I didn't stop and I couldn't stop until I had all of that blank space with something embossed in there to add some more interest. And honestly, it was worth it, because when it came to cutting them out, they were stunning. Look at these. I could honestly not get enough at this point. Sometimes I think the girl on the left is my favourite, and then I look at the one on the right and I think, no, that is stunning with the flower coming over her eye like that. So I think right now the one with the flower over her eye is my favourite. Then it was a case of, what size cookie cutter do I need? Whereabouts do I cut? Do I do one big, one small? I decided to just kind of go with it. I'm not looking for perfection. You know me, guys. I never am. It's just my excuse to not do a good job. But yeah, I wasn't necessarily thinking the face has to be in the center. the face can be off to the side. It really doesn't matter. It's all about you and your interpretation of what you want out of your creations. And to be honest, I kind of like that asymmetrical look. I don't necessarily want everything to be central and just perfect. I love things off, you know, just a bit to the side, a bit to the left, bit to the right. And it worked so well. I am down to my last bit of clay, and at this point I'm thinking I'm just gonna need to just use this bit of clay up and do whatever I can do to use it, because again, this is already completely covered in the chameleon powder and I don't want to just throw it in the bin because that's super wasteful. But loving, absolutely loving them. Here they are all together. You can see I've gone for some big ones, small ones, even smaller ones. Now these could be fridge magnets, pendants, you know, anything you want, key rings. And I really didn't know what I wanted to use them as. I was even thinking you could glue two together. Once you've actually fully finished them, you could back to back them so that you've got like a double-sided keyring. I thought that would be absolutely beautiful. Shove a great big pom-pom on there. Oh gosh, they'd be absolutely gorgeous. Now, I did put these in the oven at around about 110 degrees for 2 hours. The instructions say an hour, but you know what? 2 hours. I just always make sure I've fully cooked them. Now I've got my UV lamp you saw there. If you need to go back and check out the wattage, do that. But this UV lamp is pretty cool. It does the job, and then it's just a case of spreading this UV resin all over. Now, if you've never worked with UV resin, you still need your PPE, you still need your gloves, your mask. This stuff stinks. Like, it stinks. The smell from UV resin is 10 times more offensive than the smell from standard epoxy resin. I am telling you, if you've never used it, I'm just saying, be prepared, because whilst it's convenient, it's a really quick, easy thing to use. You know, just put a layer on, throw it under your UV light for around about 10 minutes. You have to keep pressing the button, throw it under your UV light, but the smell is real, guys. It is real. So yes, back to the video. You can see me here just pouring some in the center. Now, if you did watch that video from 8 months ago, oh wow, I mean, I was so in love with the results from that video, but they were not neat. They were not neat by any means. And so many of you said you can actually sand polymer clay, which I didn't know at the time because I'm clueless on most things, do you know what I mean? But I did end up sanding a few of these edges because, yeah, my cuts weren't great, or, you know, they hadn't necessarily baked in a perfect circle. I think by the time I've cut them, I've lifted them up, I've moved them, I've put them on a baking tray, they are all a little bit skew-whiffy, a little bit wiggly and wonky, and I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not out here proclaiming to be the next best polymer clay artist. But yes, a couple of them did need sanding in places. And equally, once I'd covered them in a layer of UV resin, some, not all, I did quite well this time. Some of the resin had dripped over the side in places. So another little quick sand around that edge just really got rid of any drip off and any spill off. And it was perfectly fine. And these two little ones, they're so cute. But even the little ones, the detail in that inlay makes them just beautiful. Really, really cute. You could have them as like, you know, sometimes you have an office wall planner that's magnetic. I was thinking they would make gorgeous little magnetic holders for your magnetic key, like, planner. Am I making sense? A wall planner. Yes, a wall planner. A magnetic wall planner, not necessarily a fridge. You know, they have their uses for those little ones. I think they'd be super cute. Anyway, 2 layers of UV resin later, this is what they look like under the UV lamp. It took a while, I'm not going to lie guys. It took around 30 minutes total to cure both front and backs because there was some seepage. So I had to cure the backs as well. Now, the one on the left, I already noticed there was kind of air in there. There was air pockets in the clay as well. I should have done something about that on the way to this point, but I'm loving them. I'm loving them so much. The chameleon powders are of course by Let's Resin. All the details will be down below for Roxanne's inlays, for Let's Resin chameleon powders. My codes were not working, guys. I am so sorry. So many of you messaged me. I did speak to Let's Resin and there was a glitch. So they are now back up and working. So the UK and the USA Let's Resin codes are now back up and they are functional for your 10% off. So if you're interested in these chameleon powders, go over, check it out. I am in love with them. If you are new to my channel, hi. I have a chameleon powder addiction. Like, it's a serious problem. But yes, I did go through a phase of using these powders in almost every video. But they're just so beautiful, especially in products like this. Look at this. Oh, I just love it. I do believe that's the magenta and the blue. They work so nicely together. The teal as well. The teal and the gold. And that was all. I decided to edge them as you've been seeing on screen. I decided to edge them with my Deco colour pens just to give them a little something because the sides were still black. And we didn't need that. We needed to jazz them up, bring them to life a little bit. I went round some with the silver and I went round others with the gold. And that was really just determined by the colours that I used in the chameleons. And I think it works absolutely beautifully. Now, honestly, hand on heart, I'm going to leave these a few days. I'm going to leave these a few days to make sure that they are fully rock solid. I don't really necessarily know if they're fully cured. I always worry about UV resin being a little bit sticky. These are not sticky at this point of filming. However, I'm going to leave it a couple of days. I'm going to drill some holes. I am in fact going to turn them into key rings, keychains, and if anything, those little ones, those little tiny baby ones, could go on with the big one. So you could have a big charm and a little one. I think that would look pretty cute. I love them. Let me know what you would use them for. I think they'd make great fridge magnets, but I'm not really a fridge magnet person. I've got a few magnets on my fridge holding some really like just letters and important documents and stuff, which probably shouldn't be on the fridge. But yeah, I'm not really a fridge magnet person. The big ones are probably too big to be worn as a necklace or a pendant, whereas I think they'd make gorgeous, chunky key rings. I love them. The inlays worked a dream. I definitely need to get me some more polymer clay. And I've said it a million times. I need the proper tools. I really do. I'm really rubbish. I really am rubbish. But anyway, I hope you take from this video what you will. And I hope it's inspired you in some way to just make some patterns. Make some dents in some polymer clay with some chameleon powder on top. Bake it in the oven. Coat it in UV. Have fun. And that is it. Enjoy. Thank you so much if you're still here. And if you've been with me in the live chat, I appreciate you massively. And I will see you all, if you're still here by the way, I'll see you all Wednesday for another live chat. But tomorrow, there's an extra video coming out tomorrow. And for those that are still here, the excitement is real in my voice because I am telling you, I've never seen anything like this. This is a huge unboxing from the washi tape shop, who contacted me and asked for a collaboration. And oh my, you're not ready. I was not ready. You are not going to be ready. Get a cup of tea. The video will be out tomorrow. It won't be on a live chat though. So I hope you love it and I will see you all on Wednesday's live chat. Bye.